So, when you hear the name Pythagoras, what's the first thing that pops into your head? For pretty much everyone, it's a shape, a formula, that cornerstone of high school geometry. But the man was so much more than a mathematician. And today, we're going to explore a side of him that might just change how you see the ancient world. And trust me, it has nothing to do with triangles. For over 2.5 millennia, this is the Pythagoras we've all known. A squared plus b squared equals c squared. Yep, that single theorem cemented his name in history as this absolute titan of mathematics. It's his undeniable and, for most people, his only legacy. But what if I told you that his actual life's philosophy, the rules he lived by and taught his followers, might have forbidden something you probably do every single day? Something you might have even had for dinner last night. That's right, eating meat. And just like that, Pythagoras isn't just some guy obsessed with numbers and angles. He's a philosopher with a profound ethical stance that feels, well, surprisingly modern. So let's go beyond the triangle. Let's uncover the philosophical world of a man who was asking some really big questions about our relationship with the animal kingdom way before it was mainstream. Okay, so full disclosure, we don't have any writings from Pythagoras himself, but later Greek and Roman scholars, they paint a pretty clear picture. He established a whole school of thought that pushed for a meat-free diet. He was one of the first major figures in the West to champion vegetarianism, not as some health trend, but as a moral imperative. So why? Well, the answer has nothing to do with nutrition or health. It's way deeper than that. It's all about a spiritual belief, about the very nature of life, death, and the journey of the soul. Here's the key concept: metempsychosis. It's this idea that after you die, your soul doesn't just poof, disappear. Nope. It finds a new home. And that new home could be another person, or it could be an animal. Now, if you truly believe that, if you believe that any living creature could be the vessel for a soul, the world starts to look very different. You know, a later philosopher named Porphyry explained the moral logic perfectly. If any animal could house the soul of a departed relative, a grandparent, a friend, then harming an animal isn't just an act of cruelty. It's an act of injustice against your own family, your own kin. So let's be absolutely clear on this, because it's the whole point. For Pythagoras and his followers, this wasn't about a dietary preference. It was a profound ethical dilemma. Eating animal flesh was morally the same as cannibalism. It was a violation of the sacred bond that connects all living things. Now, an idea this radical doesn't just exist in a vacuum. Oh no, it set the stage for one of the most important philosophical debates in Western history, a showdown between the giants of Greek thought that would literally shape our world for centuries. On one side, you've got Plato. He was deeply influenced by these Pythagorean ideas, and he carried that torch forward, this idea of a spiritual kinship between all living things. But on the other side, his own student, Aristotle, who argued for a total break from that, for a strict hierarchy, with humanity sitting right at the very top. In Plato's famous work, The Republic, he has Socrates lay out a vision for the ideal city. And listen to the diet he describes. It's simple, it's plant-based, it's peaceful. We're talking barley, wheat, figs, beans. This is the foundation of a healthy, tranquil society. But then, Socrates warns what happens when that society starts wanting more. A desire for meat is seen as the first step towards luxury. And that leads to disease, needing more land for pasture, which leads to conflict with your neighbors. For Socrates, the craving for a steak is, and I quote, literally the origin of war. Aristotle, though, he saw things completely differently. He created a system, a kind of ladder of life. At the very bottom, you've got plants, with a simple, nutritive soul. Above them are animals, with a sensitive soul that lets them feel and move. But at the very top, and only at the top, are humans, who alone have the rational soul, the ability to think and reason. And the consequence of this thinking is just massive. By drawing this clear, bright line, by denying that animals have reason, Aristotle provided a powerful philosophical justification for using them. If they exist on a lower plane, well, then they must exist for our benefit. And that idea would echo through Western civilization for thousands of years. But what's really wild is that this debate wasn't just happening in Greece. At the very same time, halfway across the world, another great thinker was wrestling with almost the exact same questions. So let's jump to the east and see what was going on. I mean, just look at this timeline. Pythagoras and the Buddha were contemporaries. They were walking the earth at the same time, totally unaware of each other, yet both of them founded philosophies that seriously challenged the idea of eating meat. Now, both philosophies believed in a cycle of life, but there was one crucial difference. The Greek idea of metempsychosis involved a permanent, unchanging soul that just moves from body to body. The Buddhist concept of samsara, on the other hand, describes a process of rebirth without a permanent individual soul. The monk Nagasena explained it with this beautiful analogy. He said, "Imagine you light one lamp from another. Is the flame of the second lamp the same flame as the first? No, but it was caused by it. It's a continuation, a transfer of process, not a transfer of a thing. That's rebirth without a soul literally passing from one body to the next. It's a subtle difference, but a profound one." So we have these two powerful competing ideas from the ancient world. This idea of kinship versus this idea of hierarchy. And one of them would go on to define the Western world's relationship with nature for the next 2,000 years. In the West, Aristotle won. It's that simple. His hierarchy of life was absorbed into medieval Christian ethics, and it became the philosophical bedrock for a worldview that saw nature and animals as resources, put here for humanity to use. The Pythagorean idea of kinship, it was pretty much forgotten. So, which path did we end up following? Did we build that world of peaceful, pastoral kinship that Pythagoras and Plato imagined? Or did we build the world of industrial efficiency made possible by Aristotle's hierarchy? I think these images kind of speak for themselves. The consequences of choosing hierarchy are all around us. They're written into our systems of industrial agriculture, our environmental crises, our contributions to climate change, even into our public health. This philosophical choice, made 2,500 years ago, has tangible, modern-day results. And that brings us to the final thought. The ancient Greeks started a debate. Are animals our equals, our kin, or are they just resources for us to use? For centuries, we have been living with the answer that was chosen. The real question is, as we now face the consequences of that choice, is it time to reconsider the question,